Hello, everyone. So, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022. So, I have subscribers from around the world, and the chances are most of you now will be in the new year. I think it's only Hawaii. Let's see, it's 1 o'clock UK time, PM. So, I think it's only Hawaii that still has to see in the new year. But for most of the world, it is now 2022. Um, this is a very spontaneous video, no particular planning with this one. And that's often the approach I take because I think that with that spontaneous angle, I can just be natural. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with planning videos and certain kinds of videos I would, but yeah, for this sort of video, I think the spontaneous nature is better. Um, like many people, I was on my own. No parties. In this country, celebrations are somewhat toned down because of the Omicron variant. And around the world, there's various different levels of how much celebrations are taking place. I noticed in Madrid there was quite a big crowd. There was firework demonstrations in Burj Al Khalifa in Hong Kong, the Burj Al Khalifa in Dubai, of course, and some of the well-known sites around the world. I didn't see the Times Square countdown. Now, I usually watch that. I didn't watch it this year because I was genuinely tired, and I went to bed about 2 a.m. Then I woke up again about 5 a.m., watched a film, The Perfect Storm 2000, and then, well, I'm back in bed now. I'm going to sleep soon because, yeah, my search is a bit all over the place. But I just want to talk a bit about the year ahead, my hopes and my thoughts. Firstly, on a personal level, outside of the situation the world is in, um, 2021 is a year I will not be sad to see the back of. Not at all. And I'm already feeling happy that we're just in a new year in that sense. 2021 was a tough year for me. In retrospect, it might have been one of the most challenging years of my life. This is not to say that it was all bad, but I basically had two very big disappointments, and I may as well mention them because I have mentioned them previously on this channel. One was not getting into the Royal Navy Reserves, and the other was a big disappointment I had in online dating. Now that's not a total, that's not an end of that situation because I'm still on the same website and hopefully something will come from it. But I had those two big disappointments. Being rejected for the armed forces wanting to serve my country, and then having this frankly heartache with online dating. Someone I'd really invested in, and I really hoped that things would work with her, but it didn't work out. And that takes its effect, takes its toll. But I'm still here, and I'm being optimistic. I'm looking forward. It's all we really can do in these sort of situations. So anyway, suffice to say, 2021 is not a year I will miss. 2022 hopefully will bring opportunities. On a personal level, there's a lot of overlap with the global situation because I've just qualified as a freelance journalist. Now, inevitably with journalism, you travel. And this isn't to say that I can't get local stories. A good journalist should be assertive and look around. So I'm going to try and do that. But ideally, I'd like to travel because I'd like that to be part of my job. I'd like to, as a freelancer, I actually have to find the stories. So that will be part of it. I also hope to visit friends, and I haven't been outside the UK in 3 years, which for me is quite a long time. Um, so I hope that that can happen. For the world, I think the thing on everyone's mind is the pandemic. That we just get out of this now. People are still dying from COVID, sadly, and it's by no means over. I do think we're either at the beginning of the end, the end of, well, more likely the beginning of the end. Um, the good news is that this new variant doesn't seem to be as fatal as others. I mean, it's virulent, it's spreading fast, but it doesn't seem to be. I haven't heard of many deaths from Omicron, and I don't want to get into a lot of issues with that because I'm not a virologist, I'm just going by news reports. YouTube, if you're watching this, I'm not spreading false information. I'm not, contradicting medical advice or anything like that. In fact, I've got my butcher shop booked for next week. Um, Unfortunately, I had to make that disclaimer because the YouTube algorithms these days, the way they sometimes judge videos is ridiculous. Resolutions I don't really keep, I've tried to avoid making solid resolutions, but I do have some hopes. I want to spend a bit less time on social media. Don't worry, I'll still make videos here, but I spend too much time on Facebook, and I just think that it isn't entirely good for my mental health. I'm not going to, some people sort of say, "Oh, I'm done with it. I'm cancelling my account." I'm not going to do that because there's too many connections there, and if I cancel my account, I don't have other methods of getting in touch with those people. But I am going to reduce it. I'm going to try and make each day productive. Um, and I'm going to try and be optimistic. I mean, the thing is, we can't force happiness, right? You can't just say, "Be happy." But I do think you can put things in context, and that's what I try to do. I try to be grateful for things I have. I had a very nice surprise from my sister-in-law and my brother recently, which was very kind of them. They got me a big hamper, which was great. Got a knock on the door, guy from Asda, just this huge hamper, of food. Um, it was very kind of them, so I'm grateful for that. Because I do not like food shopping. So yeah, it's sort of a Christmas present, I guess. New Year's present, but very kind of them to do that. Um, but for the world, I just hope we really do come out of this thing. It's worth noting that the Spanish influenza, the worst sort of outbreak, the worst mortality peak of that pandemic was in 1918 at the very start of it, but it didn't really leave completely. It didn't really um, go. It wasn't really declared over until I believe late 1920 or even into early 1921, which was about 3 years. So far, COVID is 2 years. So if we think of a similar time frame, I think personally my gut feeling is the World Health Organization will declare this over in early 2023. That's my gut feeling. But I think this is the year that the fight back begins really. If 2021 was a year where vaccines were developed, then this is the year where I think more and more will be taken. I just think that there's cause for optimism because this thing has affected us just unbelievably, every sense. I do hope to see an end of masks this year because I think, like I've previously said, I do think they are part of the restrictions. I don't agree with those who say that they're just a trivial thing. I personally find them uncomfortable and hard to breathe. Now, I appreciate a paramedic who's, in full medical kit all day would sort of look at that and say, oh, well, that's nothing. But it's not a normal situation. And so when we start to look at the back of things like that, I think we will start to see, yeah, life returning to normal. A Chinese friend contacted me today to wish me a Happy New Year. I wish her a Happy New Year, and she asked about the pandemic situation in this country. I could have said, well, I think we should have a investigation into the origins of it. But to be honest, I avoid politics with Chinese friends. I just think it's not worth it. Um, some things I just, I'm a man of my conviction. I will stand up for my views if people ask, but sometimes it really is better to be diplomatic. It saves a lot of stress. I really think that another thing I'd like to see in this year is how can I put it? I'm moving away from the culture wars. Now I know that's wishful thinking. I know inevitably there will continue to be some of the arguments that are going on, particularly in the United States. Trump is still lingering on whether he's going to run in 2024. I think he probably will. So although he's a former president, his presence is in that sense still around, and I think that um, certainly it's in the United States, it's in Canada, it's in Britain. I think it's starting to come. into Western Europe as well, other parts of Western Europe, France to some extent. Um, I really don't like the culture wars. I know what I think of them. I know what my positions are. As a centrist, I really, really dislike wokeism, but I also dislike blowhard right-wing attitudes, and I find that this is so tribal. It's just so tribal, that there isn't much space for just reasoned civil debate. Now, again, this is an area where I'm realistic. You can't always be overly polite and overly sanitized. I do think there is a place for robust debate and, you know, frankly, being outspoken as well. So I sort of take this position that something has happened in recent years which isn't good, but at the same time, we have to accept that it's always been that way on some level. I think it's just that these days it's manifested through social media and through, particularly in the States, particularly divisive election cycles. But social media is one aspect, but I also think just so much ego around, people will look at themselves and just think, well, can I improve? Can I do things differently? I know I can. There's things I'm not that proud of. I can improve on. There's other areas I think, yeah, I get that right. But I think if everyone was to look at themselves and think, how can I improve? How can I be a better person? How can I approach this in a different way? Or maybe not exactly a different way. I don't mean opinions, but yeah, just in terms of how we do things, the world would be a better place probably. Um, so for me, I want to keep going forward. I want to be productive, but I also want to not create unnecessary complications this year. Hope I could do that. Um, by which I mean simplify life a little bit. I'm going to have a big call. There's a lot of things here I don't need. I'm not a hoarder, but I do have a lot of things. I mean, I'm not, by no means I'm not wealthy, but um, yeah, I definitely need a good cleanup. Um, mental health, very, very important. In the end of the day, try and remember that whatever's happening, it's very, very easy, I think, in this modern world to get cynical. And recently I've been thinking that I'm cynical. I don't want to be, but I am. I'm cynical about the world. I'm cynical about a lot of things. The culture wars in the West, the rise of totalitarian states. For someone who cares about liberal democracy and freedom and human rights, that's very, very concerning. China and Russia have got more assertive, but nothing lasts forever. And one thing I always hold on to, this gives me hope and gives me optimism. The world is a big place in one sense. It's small in other senses, but in one sense it's big in the sense that it's never, ever, ever all bad. So, you can think about depressing things, war, crime, injustice, unfairness. Um, you can think about those things, but there's many, many good things as well. The world's a big place, and there is plenty of good out there. And I'm not just talking little things. There's bigger things that are worth celebrating as well. So I think that sometimes the news cycle could seem gloomy, and it's just constant war, pandemic, you name it. But there's ways to look at the world that can be, I think, very positive. I'm not talking about this fake positivity, like, oh, always smile. You know, um, I'm a little bit skeptical of that. People who say that, you should always be positive, and you get these sort of, I don't know, self-help gurus who their message is just constant positivity. Well, that's not realistic. It's just not realistic. Um, so I don't agree with that, but I think that there are ways to look at the world and to look at life, and I'm going to try and do that a lot more. Um, I'm going to review this channel. That's something I was probably going to make a specific announcement about that. But basically, I have too many videos. That's about the height of it. I have just too many videos. I think about 3,000 actually since 2012. Now, a lot of those are good, I'll keep, but I do think I need to edit it a little bit. I'm going to delete some videos that I think just maybe the sound quality is not great, maybe the repetitive, so I think I have to do that because I want to tidy up generally, and that's part of it. Anyway, that's it really. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just best wishes for 2022. I'm not one to give advice, but for me, I would just say I think it's a good way to look at things is to try and be your best self, to not be too hard on yourself. Put your mental health first. And remember that things that can seem very divisive, like the culture wars, like you name it, um, maybe that's a little bit of hyperbole. Maybe, when you talk to people, or maybe when you scale things back a little bit, it's not as gloomy as it might seem. Um, I mean, I do believe in reason. I do believe that I believe most people are fundamentally decent, put it that way. Um, and I think most people have their hearts in the right place. So I think this calls for optimism. Anyway, people, take care and have a wonderful 2022.